I think that we can start, should we? Right? Okay. Okay, so first of all, welcome to everyone to this webinar organized by Gen D, and where we will have the opportunity to chat to Scott Brinker and David Carro about marketing technologies and the future of jobs. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Arantxa Garcia. I'm the director and co-founder of Gen D, the first digital capabilities school focused on data in the Spanish market, with the aim of fixing the scarcity of data profiles in the Spanish market. Right now, we are running quite successfully 3 programs in the school: digital intelligence analyst, data-driven and CRO designer, and marketing technologist. For this third program, Marketing Technologist, is one of our innovative bets in the Spanish market, as Gen D is the only school offering this opportunity to prepare a professional on this 360 degrees role in the cycle of data activation, to cover the gap of these open positions not yet filled by companies in the market. Actually, our program director, Nacho Couceiro, has put together this program thinking day and night on Scott Brinker. Maybe you don't know this, Scott, but this is the reality. So you have been in our lives for such a very long time right now. Just 1 second, because I'm just trying to move the slides. Okay, now it's getting better, right? Having said that, I have the pleasure of introducing today Scott Brinker. He is our main speaker for this session. Scott, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Spanish data community.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Scott is VP Platforms Ecosystems at HubSpot. He is also running the Chief Marketing Technologist blog called chiefmartech.com with over, I think, 50,000 readers, where you have the chance of talking about the intersection of marketing, technology, and management. You wrote also the best-selling book, Hacking Marketing, and you co-authored the so well-known article in Harvard Business Review in 2014, if I remember well, called The Rise of the Chief Marketing Technologist. I know also that you serve as the program chair of the Martech conference, and you are a frequent keynote speaker at conferences all around the world. So this is about Scott, our main speaker. And also I would like to introduce you our second speaker, David Carro. David, thank you very much for joining us once again in this webinar. David is the Martech and Design, is the head of Martech and Design at Vodafone, leading the digital data and design disciplines. Implementing new ways of working around agile, around technology, in order to create memorable experiences for customers through the activation of data. David, also, you have combined all of your professional career in the last 20 years with your passion about a lecturer, and you are a lecturer at different universities and business schools, as ICADE, as IE Business School, Instituto de Empresa, and also we have the pleasure of having you as a lecturer in our school, in Gen D. Okay, so after these presentations, and to break the ice, I would like to start by asking Scott our first question, right? As the Martech profession in the US is the mirror where we, Spain, look ourselves to foresee the future, I would like to ask you, Scott, how is evolving the Martech profession in the US, and what are the main drivers shaping the configuration of this professional?
Great, thank you. Well, I think it's worth starting out by noting that this role of a marketing technologist as a profession is still incredibly new. You could say 10 years ago, nobody had really ever heard of the term. The few people who were actually doing this work, um, they were just an interesting hybrid between people with experience in IT and software development and web development who are now also working inside the context of the marketing department. But over this past 10 years, there's been incredible growth with this emerging as a true profession. And I would say here in the US, and even globally at this point, there are many different flavors of marketing technologists, that are emerging. So we could say generally, a marketing technologist is someone who's very fluent with leveraging technology, configuring it, designing it, implementing it, running it in the service of marketing. But you certainly have people who specialize more in like marketing operations, not just these systems, but sort of the process and management, around the rest of the org. You have people who are going deeper into data, really understanding how to leverage the incredible data that marketing is working with. There are people who are a little bit more on the developer side, building out the experiences that customers are having on marketing touch points. And yeah, I mean, the main thing that's driving this profession is what we've all experienced is the world has just become digital first for so many businesses. This is how you find and engage and retain your customers. And in a lot of companies, it is the marketing team and the marketing technologists within them that really, are leading the charge with that experience.
Yeah. And David, would you like to say something regarding
Well,
how the US perspective is influencing the Spanish one?
well, I think yes. I think the US market is much more flexible than the Spanish one, and I think most of the technologies that we are using are coming from the US as well. So and we are trying to also adapt that to our own culture and economy structure, because I mean, it's true that I think Europe has a different flavor in terms of how to deal with data, for instance, data protection, or how to deal with the way we organize companies here in Spain. But I think the fundamental point is that I think we should stop doing digital marketing and we should try to do marketing on a digital world. And I think this is a quote that comes from, I don't remember the name, but it was from, I think, Johnson & Johnson, or one of these big companies, And it is that's the main point, we should be focused on things are moving so fast and things are changing, and they have not changed yet. They are changing now. I think we need to invent ourselves in organizations and in our professions, and at the same time, while at the same time we need to do the job. That would be my key question.
Thank you, David and Scott. Scott, due to the vast proliferation of Martech tools in the last years and the shift of technology spending from IT areas into marketing areas, will all marketing professionals eventually become Martech specialists of different kinds? What do you think?
So I think that it is a spectrum. Almost everyone in business, I mean, certainly everyone in marketing, is going to have to be fluent with using these tools, because this is the way we actually create and deliver marketing in a digital world. And so I think whatever your role is in marketing, you should embrace, learning how to use this technology and being able to get the most value out of it. That being said, I think, you have this spectrum where you will have professionals who bring deeper technical skills. Not everyone in marketing needs to be fluent with how to architect a Martech stack, or to be able to manage the data integration across multiple systems, or be able to do, some of that deeper data science work, on analyzing this data. So I think there'll be a bunch of specialists. But what's kind of exciting is if you look at the marketing organization as a whole, these people will be part of that team, so it is very much a cooperative effort, among quite a fascinating variety, of technology and marketing specialists.
Mm-hmm. And David, do you see something similar here at the other side of the ocean?
I think we are seeing just how different disciplines are emerging. There is a merge of different knowledge and disciplines, and it's in the confluence of those disciplines where we can see the new job positions or the new professionals coming. And this is creating a lot of interesting debates within the organizations in order to understand how can we manage that, how can we manage the way marketeers are doing marketing campaigns within organizations that are very focused on silo structure. How can we develop people that are creating their own professions or their own jobs, while at the same time they are performing that job and creating these new profiles. And this is creating fundamental questions in organizations in how we can manage that situation and evolve quickly. This is creating interesting challenges in terms of recognition of a professional, remuneration, in terms of development as well, keeping people updated with the latest knowledge on technologies and practices. And I think that's where we have the challenge. We as a marketeers or as a leaders in organizations.
Interesting. Right. Our third question, I would like to start by asking this question to David first, and then after that, if we can have your flavor also, Scott, that would be great. David, in your case, leading the Martech and design disciplines in Vodafone, where are the Martech professionals getting training? And what is most important, how do they maintain their skills in such a fast environment?
I think that there isn't formal training for this profession because, as Scott said, this is a so broad discipline that at least you need to do, let's say, specific development plans for a specific people, depending on the goals you may have for that, for instance, for that year, and also on the area where they work, because Martech is very broad. In our case, we try to get some formal training from technology suppliers, and that's important because at the end of the day, you have that those suppliers can transfer you a lot of knowledge into the teams. Then there is another one, which is, in digital, you as a professional are reinventing yourselves every 18 months, so you have internet to do that. Internet has a vast amount of information, tutorials, blogs, people to follow, and even you yourself, just by showing and sharing information with others, are also learning. But I think it's important for marketing professionals also to take into account soft skills, influencing skills, empathy skills, communication skills, because at the end of the day, because in organization we're trying to break silos to make the Martech stack work cross-functionally in order to give the customer the best service. And in order to do that, we try to reduce hierarchy and to make people more and more empowered. And that means that you need to be, as a professional, I would say, very independent, with a lot of soft skills ability to influence others, to counterweight, teams versus teams, so that in a collaborative way you deliver those experiences and messages to your final customer. So soft skills very important, formal training for technology suppliers, and then it's an attitude. Learning is an attitude for digital professionals and more in the Martech area.
Yeah, I would echo what David said there. The soft skills are incredibly important, particularly because of the fast-moving environment. It's not only a challenge for marketing technologists, to keep pace with this technology, But because this technology has to then be adopted and used by everyone else in the marketing organization, there's a big part of this role that is change management, and helping other people learn and adapt to take advantage of these capabilities. So I think investing in that sort of education will just be incredibly valuable as well. The main way I see, marketing technology people really learn what works by doing it. It really helps to work in a company or in a, like in your particular job, where you are given the opportunity to experiment with some of these new technologies and learn and figure them out. If part of what goes into your decision of what sort of job to take is how much opportunity you will have to actually learn and develop your skill sets with those technologies in practice, that's a really valuable asset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. The moment where we are, definitely. Okay. Next topic that I would like to bring into the table. Based on what David and you, Scott, had just mentioned regarding soft skills, and as they are becoming more fundamental, not only in Martech, but also in the digital ecosystem, as you have just mentioned. Scott, in your experience, what soft skills Martech specialists should develop to survive or to succeed in a new world, apart from the functional knowledge and the functional skills?
Yeah, I think it's, I'll just double down on what we were just talking about there. When I think about the kinds of soft skills that are really important, we talked a little bit here about change management. Part of it is also like learning how to run teams in a true agile fashion, and this is a lot about being able to empower small teams to run, very quickly. It's about empowering people to experiment, to try things, and you need to understand that when you are trying new things, you are pioneering new ground. Is not everything is going to work. This is what we need to learn, is we need to try different things to figure out which things work well, which things don't. It's very dependent on our particular business and our particular customers. And I think that's challenging because, like traditional management, tends to, have been structured around, this very rigid thing of like, okay, here's what you need to do. Here's the target. Don't mess up anything on it. Get it right the first time. And in a world where, we are all figuring out how to adapt to these new digital capabilities, these changing environments. That doesn't work. And in fact, if you're too rigid in your management, people are reluctant to experiment. They're reluctant to try, and it really holds back the innovation that can be unlocked here. So I think it's definitely, for people who are, managing these teams, people who are ultimately leading these entire groups, to really lean into that support for empowerment and giving people permission to fail in order to find what's really going to work very well.
Yeah,
Totally agree with you, Scott. I remember in your book, Hacking Marketing, one of the things you say is that since brands are becoming software companies, you need to organize your marketing departments around that reality and also embrace Agile. And I think Agile is not just a way to organize things, but it's a new leadership culture. It's a new leadership culture because the senior management needs to learn how to lose control and allow teams to fail, and I think that, for Martech be success, the first soft skills that need to have in your company is really your leadership team to start understanding that process, which is a soft skill for them, and then allow the teams to be empowered and to make mistakes, to learn, to test new things, to experiment and things like that. For specific individuals, I think for professionals in the Martech area, I think, I think influence and positive influence on others is very important. I mean, in agile work, it's a system of weights and counterweights, you know. So you need to influence others to make things happen. It's not just a hierarchy of authority anymore, and you need to get used to it as a professional. So it's not only the senior leaders, but also yourself. You need to understand you are more responsible than before to deliver that and to work collaboratively in a environment where you have different goals in a matrix organization with 2 or 3 bosses and things like that. You know, that's I think the most difficult thing, I think. And also learning agility. Learning agility is very important, as Scott says. I mean, because everything is moving so fast that you need to be learning all the time,
Yeah, and I just would like to say that based on what you have just said, Scott, that we should allow teams just to fail and to learn from that failure. I think there is a cultural factor here because the US culture probably could accept better just the failure and learn. Whereas the Spanish culture, for example, I mean, the change in the mindset that we need to to get through is massive because for us, any fail, even in a try mode, is not allowed. So the challenge is extremely big for everyone, but in our culture is even bigger. I would try to say.
No, that's a good point. I will just say, as much as I enjoy my work in the U.S., I assure you, most of the companies in the U.S. are struggling with that same thing too. It is a really different mindset, and I like the way David framed this as a cultural shift. And those are hard. Those are very hard things to change. So yeah, you just go into it appreciating that this is not going to be a simple transformation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good, good. So, okay, David, moving our attention now into the merging of the data and design disciplines. I think this is a fact. This is a reality. Actually, at Gindi, in the school, we have a program, Data-Driven and CRO Designer, which is the result of this reality, right? And also, every day there are more and more data-driven products and experiences. And also, we have here the Forbes a quote: "Customer experiences is the new marketing." So, David, first, will eventually designers, UX professionals be part of the Martech community?
Who knows? It's so broad, the market. I could say yes or no. I think the important thing is not if they are members or not of the Martech community. I think the important thing is the way they participate in decisions around customer experience and the need for them to understand the data universe and how technologies are allowing to do new things. And on the other side, I think the Martech community needs to understand how important is the human factor and the customer experience factor, so that they can both co-create those experiences. Because as data is becoming the oil of the engines of the economy, it's going to be more and more important that designers are just crafting new frameworks of experience based on data rather than individual experiences. And also, as data Martech expert, they need to understand those frameworks so that they activate the right data to the right logic to the right person. I see this blend of disciplines working together. I'm not sure if they will be part of not, but it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to know Scott's view on that.
Yeah, well, I think if we were talking earlier about how this blending between the world of software and the world of marketing are coming together, I think we can just look at the world of software and see how important the role of designers and UX researchers, and really that dimension of software that for many years actually wasn't a very important part of software, which is why we have so much software out there that's just terrible to use. But that whole software community has just gotten a lot more serious about treating design as one of the first class properties of what makes really great software. And so now that software is just getting so blended, into marketing and how we deliver these experiences and operate our organizations to support them. Yeah, I think it makes absolute sense that you want that design view to be at the table and very much informing how these experiences are being shaped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the boundaries of Martech and its relationship with IT. And Scott, how do you expect the organizational reporting lines will evolve between CIOs and CMOs? How is this organization typically in US companies right now?
Yeah, it's been an interesting evolution. So it used to be that the IT organization and the CIO were responsible for almost all of the technology, that powered the organization. But what happened here is it wasn't like the CMO was trying to take anything away from the CIO. What happened is just the amount of technology that is now like embedded throughout our companies, has increased exponentially, and so there's much more technology to be managed and, operated, than any one team could, do all of it. And so I think what you see is in most organizations that have matured in their development here, is the CIO is kind of like the technology and data version of the CFO, right? I mean, the CFO who heads up finance, they don't decide how every single team spends their budget. What they provide is a framework for governing, how finance is managed throughout the org, to be able to keep track of these budgets, make sure that they're not being, misappropriated, to be able to track them back, to performance, for the company's return on investment. But there's a lot of freedom that's given to the individual departments for then, okay, given that budget, how do you go and you execute your mission to deliver the results that you're responsible for? And I think it's a very similar thing with technology. The CIO should be providing that framework and that governance, for everything from, what is acceptable, like data management practices, to what are the SLAs that we expect from technology vendors? How do we vet them to make sure they meet our security standards? But then within the marketing team and the CMO, and in particular then like the Martech or marketing operations leaders within those teams, it's then really their responsibility in that framework, to put together the tool set that is going to be most valuable to the marketing team, to be able to enable the marketing team to take advantage of it, to really, run and administer, most of those marketing systems. It's a partnership when it's done well.
Yeah.
And sorry, Scott, and what you are just explaining is the current situation, the as is situation, or the to be situation where we should go?
Yeah, different companies are at different stages along this. I would say that is the structure I've seen at companies that seem to be doing this most effectively. But yes, various companies are still at different stages of, how strong that partnership is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And David, what do you think? Coming to the Spanish or European flavor?
I agree with the Scott on this decentralization of hub and spoke, organization with technology and marketing. I'd like to add something else, which is that there is a layer of technology, which is the customer-facing technology. which needs to be much more agile. High level change, volatile, and with a lot of experimentation around the experience of the customer, because it's what the customer is demanding as well to all of us. So in that area, what I'm seeing as well is a trend to start to blur that situation where IT is IT and marketing is marketing, but start blending teams, start blending reporting lines, and start happening things, which is an interesting situation where you start having dotted lines with the with marketing, or the opposite, so that you start blending organizations. And I think this is becoming more and more important. The main point here is to avoid silos. Silos are the main barrier to the in the path to the customer experience right now, because you don't react quickly to the signals that are coming from your customers. And this is what is very, very important in customer facing systems, in your web, in your app, in your agents technology, and things like that, where you need a lot of flexibility. And in that area, I'm seeing more and more influence from the chief marketing officer making decisions on that. But I agree on the frameworks thing that the Scott was saying, because this is happening as well here.
David, delving into the Martech IT relationship, and also in avoiding the silo silo situation that you mentioned before. Many IT professionals are worried about the growth of what they call shadow IT, based on the idea that since IT is not able to cope or to give proper support to marketing, marketing has invented or has bloomed this Martech discipline, and this could create a potential risk for software out of the IT discipline. What is your perception of this situation in the Spanish market? That's the question for David.
I think it's happening. I think because of the numbers of tools and technologies in Chief Martech, you can see 8,000. In 2020, I think 8,000 potential applications that you can take the credit card from the chief marketing officer and start getting technology and software into your company without any control from technology. So, and that may happen, and in fact, it's happening sometimes. The point I'm just going back to what Scott said, because I totally agree with him. IT should be like an enabler for things happening, in other areas. So, but you also need to get a layer for innovation where, other departments can spend a little, on things that are new, out of the box, different from what you already did, and things like that. And then you spend on that, but you still need to have some kind of, let's say, framework from technology in terms of security, data privacy, and reliability, and things like that. The point is where to get the balance, But I think it's more a cultural cooperation process where IT needs itself as an enabler, not only as an internal supplier.
Yeah, it's funny. I've heard the term shadow IT for many years, because it's usually said in that context of, oh no, someone other than IT is doing something with technology. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, but I would also say we have to be careful of shadow marketing, which is the recognition that these systems in a digital world impact the performance of our business. As David said, these customer-facing systems in particular, the experience the customers have with us, this shapes our brand. And if the IT department is too closed on insisting that, they have to control all of that technology, what they're missing out is this recognition of really understanding, the marketing dimension, of how this technology is applied and used. And I would argue that shadow marketing, when it results in a bad experience for customers in a digital world, is just as potentially disruptive as shadow IT.
That's a very good one.
Very good point. Yeah, in fact. Okay. Um, Scott, in your 2014 Harvard Business Review article, you talked about that the new role, Chief Marketing Technologist, is part strategist, part creative director, part technology. How are you seeing the evolution or promotion of this CMT, Chief Marketing Technologist role, in large organizations in the US?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll be honest, I think the role of chief marketing technologist hasn't really emerged as a title. When I wrote the article, it was recognizing that these two worlds of, IT and software and then marketing were overlapping, and there was definitely need for leadership there. But for a lot of organizations, the form that's taken is now the marketing department usually has at least one pillar of the organization. It's often called marketing operations or marketing operations and technology. It might be part of a digital business, or organization. And it's really these roles that end up doing the work that's described in that article for the chief marketing technologist of combining these things. But the title chief marketing technologist, I am sad to say, never quite caught on.
Okay, so that's the case in the US. And David,
The same. I think the Martech areas or functions, they are starting to be present in the organization of many companies, but the role of chief market technologist is something very new. I mean, I haven't seen something like that. You also have in many companies a chief digital officer who is doing kind of similar role, but it's not exactly the same. And in some occasions, that role is more like a translator, of marketing into technology and technology into marketing, which is a useful one. I think a useful role. But officially or formally, I haven't seen that in many companies in Spain, in Europe.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and also yeah, exactly. Yeah, and also what I can see from the Gen Z perspective is that now in Spain we are starting to see the blooming of the Martech discipline as such, which is like several steps behind. What even you, Scott, explained in this article at Harvard Business Review. So, yeah, we are like the baby.
We're all learning. This is all very new, relatively speaking. So
that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's very true. Good. We are arriving to the last two questions of this webinar, and I would like to put them more like guidance, recommendations, and advices that you could provide to the Spanish data community. So in this case, this is a question for both of you. Whomever want to start to answer, that's great. What is the guidance you would give to a company which wants to be best of breed Martech or full stack?
okay, I'll take a first swing at it. So the way this started was with that crazy landscape of all those different marketing technology tools. Is for a number of years, it was a very clear choice between either buying like one suite from a single vendor, like an SAP or an Oracle or a Salesforce, or picking all the different tools from across that landscape and trying to figure out how to get them to work together. And either of those choices had disadvantages to them. With the one suite, you were often then very limited, to just the capabilities that company had created. With the best of breed, the challenge became, managing that integration would become incredibly complex. In my opinion, the industry is moving to a model that is kind of best of both, like a hybrid approach. I often talk about this as platform ecosystems. Obviously, I'm biased. This is my mission at HubSpot, is to help HubSpot with this, where you will have a few of these primary systems by large companies, the public Martech companies that we know about, that will serve as the foundation for most companies' Martech stacks. But then, because those foundational systems are becoming more open and they're creating relationships with these other specialist app developers, and they're putting together marketplaces that vet these integrations and make it easier for people to discover them and install them, we're hopefully getting to an environment where you will have both. You will have your primary systems, and then you will be able to pick some of the best of breed tools that are designed to integrate with that system. And that being said, that's the ideal. That's where we're headed. Today, I think we're still somewhere in between the two. But David, I imagine you wrestle with this quite a bit.
It's my day-to-day life. I think I remember this. Have you heard of this Conway's law that says that your organization delivers the systems, mirroring your organizational structure? So if you have a silo organization, you will have a silo technology. If you have a agile a small teams organization, you will have a very flexible and modular technology. So depending how is your organizational structure and your communication channels, you will have that kind of technology structure as well. So I think it depends on the organization. So I agree with you, Scott. There is not a clear answer on that. If you have an agile organization where your technology is very agile and you can create easily interfaces that are able, to communicate small pieces of software to do that job, because your organization allows you to do that, and that gives you the best value to your core business and to your customer. That's an important one. Then you can go with best of breed. But the problem is that in most of the organizations, we are very silo oriented. Let's be real here. Let's be realistic. So the trend, and this is what I'm seeing, is that we try to prefer full stack, because full stack gives you a lot of tools to break the silos and allow this agile organization working together, instead of putting your effort on connectivity, interfaces, and this communication challenge that you have when you have different technologies, But it's not easy to give just a black or white answer. You need to look into your capabilities as an organization to go faster, to develop faster that. So that's my opinion. Nowadays, I think I would go with a more focus on full stack, because also, you are in a traditional company that helps you a lot to break those silos.
This question could be very tricky, as we can see based on your answers. Our final question for both of you. Any key advice you would like to give to young professionals in Spain who are interested in the Martech professions? David, you first, as the question is focused on Spain.
Okay, I would say, first of all, I would say that you need to understand that you are becoming a change agent in your organization, because this is a soft skill thing, because it's not just having a profession and that's it. You need to evolve a lot. So my first point would be very passionate about the job you are doing. So enjoy that, and also understand that you have a functional role to do, but also you have a function of change agent in your organization. And finally, I would say to be focused on learning agility. You need to learn and relearn all the time. And if you don't like that, don't go here. Don't come. It's very difficult to survive with that.
Okay. And Scott, I don't know if probably the answer is yes. In the United States, are there a lot of schools like ours, like Gen D, schools who provide this specific practical learning model just to bring into the market practical professionals who are not coming from the universities or from any other environment. Is that the case also in the US, or your paradigm is different?
Yeah, I think even in the US, this is still not a profession that has a bunch of well-established schools or training programs. As David mentioned earlier, very often you see the technology vendors themselves, have created a lot of, academies and learning courses, which some of them are very good, but of course the challenge is they're very much through the lens of how that particular company, views the world. I think we're starting to see, more programs appear, both independent, but actually even in some of the universities, that are starting to develop, some of these professional programs. As we talked about earlier, I think the truth is, while there's definitely a lot you can learn through these programs, this is such a discipline that is a discipline of practice, and it's something that, you learn through doing. I really like the way David framed this of, if you're choosing this profession, you've got to really love being in that mode of, discovering and being curious and like trying new things and, getting excited about the opportunity to learn something new. And if you feel that way, wow, what an incredible profession. I mean, if we step back and we recognize that marketing is going through this incredible transformation, it's becoming so much more, than what it was, like 20, 30 years ago, all this being embedded in delivering this customer experience, all these like state of the art, digital channels that are changing the way, consumers interact with brands. If you love embracing a certain amount of this just uncertainty of, having to learn and, discover, wow, the ability to like make a mark, make a difference, build an incredible career. I'm biased, obviously, but I think this is a phenomenal path.
Yeah, I think that although all of this is a challenge, I feel that it's a privilege that we are just in the middle of this marketing and technology revolution. I think that it's a real privilege for all of us. Yeah, so, well, I have so many takeaways after talking to you two guys. I mean, I'm just going to say two or three because after this webinar, we'll just make a summary in our blog with the webinar, and we'll record everything and post it on the blog. But CIO could be the digital version of the CFO. Okay. Shadow marketing versus shadow IT. That's another very good takeaway. The hybrid between best of breed marketing technology and full stack, where this is the point where we are right now versus where we should be in the future, and all of the change management and the cultural shift. Well, too many takeaways. So thank you very much. Before saying goodbye, and as we have 4 or 5 minutes. I just would like to open the microphones in case that anyone would like to make any question to Scott Brinker or David Carroll. So if someone would like to ask something, this is the time.
Hi, I have a question. I'm Manu Blanco. I'm in David's team. I consider myself a Martech guy because I'm in the Martech world. But I have a question about where is the limit of the fail? Because you cannot live in a failure environment, right? What do you consider? Where is the limit about the fail?
So it's really interesting. I actually think there's two you kind of want to separate two pieces of modern operations in the marketing team. There's almost like a core set of capabilities and responsibilities and functions that you actually already know how to do, for most of this. And you want to do that, and you want to do it well, and you do not want those things to fail. And I think that's reasonable. I think there is a smaller set of responsibilities that marketing teams have now to innovate, to push forward, to experiment with new things. And I think that's where you see the inevitable trade-off that to try new things, you have to embrace the risk that not all of them are going to work. And I think one of the things we can do is we can look at companies who have really been some of the best in class at this. Like if you read the annual reports from companies like Google and from Amazon, they talk about the fact that they run thousands of experiments every year, and the vast majority of those experiments do not work. And they're actually perfectly fine with that, because it's the 10% of the experiments that do work and end up being really big value drivers for those companies. It is more than worth, the small experiments they tried that didn't. But this is a new model. Most, as we were saying earlier, most companies have not managed that way, don't have that kind of cultural mentality around experimentation yet. But again, if we're looking at the people who are doing this better than anyone in the digital world, I think we see that that's really a big part of what makes them successful.
Thank you for your answer, Scott. Yeah, I consider it's really complex to know where is the limit of the fail. Yeah, thanks.
It's whatever your boss tells you the limit is.
Yeah.
I would say there is no limit, because they should be embedded in your daily working flow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and your
in
mindset,
terms of limits. I mean, of course, we got to the limit to exaggeration where you are just betting your company. Okay, sure, with common sense, but there should be no. I mean, if we want to empower people, we need to allow them to make mistakes, I think.
I think it also matters how it fails. Like if it fails because someone did not do a good job with, like someone didn't treat it carefully, didn't be thoughtful about it. If it fails because of carelessness, I think it's still fine to say, hey, that's not acceptable. But if it fails because it was a good hypothesis, it was well executed, but still, when the hypothesis was tested, it turned out that the market, the answer was no, actually, that doesn't work. That's actually, I mean, it's a failure, but it's not a failure because, it wasn't implemented well. It was a failure because, we are trying things at the edge of how our organization works. And the only way we can learn is by trying these new things and taking some of that risk.
Okay. I have one of our teachers at the school, Hugo Nebreda, in the Marketing Technologist program. Okay, he sent me two questions and asked me to choose one because of the time. So I'm going to ask on behalf of Hugo, and Hugo, if you want to add anything else, feel free, please. His question is, how can someone find and maintain the right balance between learn specific tools or fundamentals? And how can anyone identify those fundamentals in marketing technology?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. The great thing about the fundamentals, and the fundamentals are constantly changing, so it's kind of funny to talk about them as fundamentals, but the ideas and the concepts are much more valuable because when it comes to the specific products, we see that those products are continually changing. We very often are substituting, different products at different stages, in our company's existence. And so while knowing how to actually use a specific tool is useful, it's part of what you need to do the job. I think the more you can distill that into an understanding of, conceptually what is happening and how it's working and why, that becomes a much more portable skill set and mindset to bring to your career.
Okay, thank you. That was a tricky question indeed. Okay. Okay, so 3 minutes to go. Benito, I saw that you opened your camera. Not sure if because you wanted to ask something or.
Yes, hello everyone. Hi, it was amazing this webinar. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for all of you. I had just a very top question, and it is that normally in Spain we are very based with what is happening, and we are following US, okay, and Western in terms of marketing technology. But I would like to know, maybe Scott, you know, some other good practices that you have seen on organizations or you have seen on Asia, and I mean in technology, marketing technology, that you would like to highlight, you know, because we are always thinking on what is coming from USA, okay, but sometimes we miss that. In my case, I work in Samsung. It's a Korean company. That there are some things that we need to consider and learn from Asia.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say Asia has been, and it frankly continues to be, ahead of the world, ahead of the US, in really understanding how to engage with customers through mobile devices. I think you still see a lot of US companies, they treat their mobile apps, you know, as kind of a little side feature, or, you know, something, you know, it's a nice benefit, but it's not, you know, the core way they think of engaging with their customers, versus I think you've seen a lot of Asian companies. I mean, certainly folks who are leveraging platforms like, you know, WeChat, you know, as just like a whole new way to do business with people. I think there's a lot, you know, the rest of us in the world can learn from those experiences.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a good point, Benito. It's true. Asia exists also. Okay, so, well, thank you very much, Scott and David, for your time today on this webinar. I think that it has been really, really very interesting. I've enjoyed it a lot. I hope that you too.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure, really, to share this time with Scott, and also to learn from them. I hope we can carry on in contact with you, Scott, and carrying learning from you and from your blog, from Chief Martech.
Thank you, and well, keep doing a great job of actually running Martech in the real world. It was awesome to hear your perspective.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Scott and David, and also all of the Spanish audience who has connected today to this webinar. So this webinar will be available in the blog of Gen D, also in case you want to listen to it later on or just to share it with your fellows. And I wish you a very good afternoon for Scott and a very good evening for the Spanish audience. Okay, I'm hoping to see you in our next webinars. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.